Hi everyone! Welcome back to our channel. Today I have a beautiful and emotional story to share with you. A story about honesty, family, and the small secrets that can grow bigger than we expect. You'll listen to the full story first, and then I'll guide you through some English practice to help you learn naturally. After the story, we'll explore useful vocabulary, reflect on storytelling techniques, and create tiny stories together. And of course, we'll finish with shadowing practice to help you speak more confidently. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy today's story and learn English at the same time.
My name is Anna. I come from Canada. I work as a maid in a bakehouse. I work there 3 days a week. On the other days, I work in a small flower shop. The house belongs to Mrs. Ortega. She is a kind woman, but she works very hard. She has no husband. She lives alone. I clean her house. I wash the dishes, clean the floor, and do the laundry. I like the house. It is big and bright. There is a small garden and a large terrace. On nice days, the sun shines there all morning. Mrs. Ortega has one son. His name is Miguel. He is around 30 years old. He does not have a job. He lives with some friends in another part of the city. Sometimes he comes to visit his mother. He comes early in the morning, sits on the sofa and watches television. When the weather is good, he sits on the terrace and drinks beer. I see him often when I clean. He is quiet and does not talk much. He says hello, and that's all. He drinks many bottles of beer. I always carry the empty bottles to the basement. There are many beer cases there. The basement is dark and cold. I do not like going there, but it is my job. Mrs. Ortega works at a factory. She leaves the house early and comes home late. Sometimes she calls me when I'm cleaning. She asks, "Anna, is Miguel at home? Is everything fine?" I always answer, "Yes, Mrs. Ortega. Everything is fine." It is true most of the time. I respect Mrs. Ortega. She works very hard, and she is always tired, but she never complains. She talks kindly to me and pays me on time. I feel lucky to have this job. In Canada, I worked in a small shop. Life was not easy. After my divorce, I came here to earn money. I send money to my son every month. He lives with my mother back home. I miss him every day. One morning, Miguel came to the kitchen while I was cleaning. He looked serious. He said, "Anna, I need your help." I stopped and looked at him. "What do you need?" I asked. He said, "I will go on a trip for a few weeks, but please don't tell my mother. She will worry too much. Just tell her I'm still here." I was surprised. "You want me to say you are at home?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes, just tell her everything is okay. She always calls you to ask about me. Please, Anna." He looked at me with tired eyes. I did not want problems, but I felt sorry for him. "So?" I said. "Okay, no problem." He smiled a little and thanked me. The next morning, I saw him leaving the house. He had a small bag with him. I thought maybe he really went on a trip. After that, I did not see him again. The days after that were quiet. I worked as usual. I cleaned the rooms, washed the dishes, and took the bottles to the basement. I did not hear the television anymore. The house felt empty, but I did not say anything. Mrs. Ortega still called me every evening. She asked the same question every time. "Anna, is Miguel at home?" I said. Yes, Mrs. Ortega, everything is fine. It was a lie, but I told myself it was a small one. I did not want her to worry. After 2 weeks, Mrs. Ortega came home early from work. I was cleaning the kitchen. I was surprised to see her. She said, "Anna, I came early today. I wanted to see Miguel." "Is he home?" I froze for a second and then said, "He went out this morning. Maybe he will come back soon." She sat down at the table. She looked very tired. "He never answers my calls," she said. "I don't know what is wrong. I just want him to find work. I can't take care of him forever." I felt sorry for her. I said, "He will be fine. Maybe he just needs time." She gave a small smile. "Maybe you are right, Anna," she said. Then she went to her room to rest. When I finished my work that day, I went down to the basement to put away some empty bottles. I turned on the light and saw that some beer cases were open. I saw some bottles missing. There were broken pieces of glass on the floor. I did not understand. Miguel was gone, but someone had been here. I cleaned the mess and threw away the broken glass. I felt a little nervous. Maybe Miguel came back for some bottles. Maybe he forgot something. I did not know. I tried not to think about it. The next few days were the same. Mrs. Ortega worked late, and I kept the house clean. Sometimes she left food on the table for Miguel. She thought he would come home while she was away. But every morning, the food was still there. I threw it away and said nothing. Each time the phone rang, I felt worried. I was afraid Mrs. Ortega would ask to speak with Miguel. When she called, I said he was sleeping or taking a shower. I did not like lying, but I had promised Miguel. One morning when I came to the house, I saw the back door open. I thought maybe Mrs. Ortega forgot to close it. I called, "Hello, is anyone home?" But there was no answer. The house was quiet. I checked the terrace, then went downstairs to the basement. This time, more bottles were missing. I felt afraid. I was sure Mrs. Ortega did not go there. She hated the basement. "Who was taking the bottles that evening?" Mrs. Ortega called again. "Anna, is everything okay?" she asked. I wanted to tell her the truth, but I could not. "Yes, Mrs. Ortega," I said quietly. "Everything is fine. Miguel is here." I ended the call and sat down in the kitchen. My hands were shaking. I looked at the dark basement door and felt cold. I had promised to keep Miguel's secret. But now I started to feel that the secret was growing bigger every day. Before I continue the rest of the story, please tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now, let's continue. The next week felt longer than usual. I worked as always, but I could not stop thinking about the open basement and the missing bottles. Every time I went down there, I counted them. Each time there were fewer. I started to lock the basement door after cleaning. Still, I felt nervous. One morning when I came to the house, I saw a man near the back gate. He was tall and wore a dark jacket. I could not see his face. When I looked at him, he turned around and walked away quickly. My heart beat fast. I went inside and locked the door. The house was quiet and everything looked normal, but I could not stop thinking about that man. Later that day, Mrs. Ortega called me from work. "Anna, how is my son?" she asked as always. I looked at the phone and felt my throat dry. "He is fine, Mrs. Ortega," I said. She sounded happy. "Good," she said. "Tell him to answer my call sometimes." I smiled weakly and said, "Yes, I will tell him." After the call, I put down the phone and sighed. I was tired of lying. That evening, as I finished cleaning, I went to the terrace to bring the empty bottles. The air was cool and the sun was going down. I picked up the bottles and walked to the basement. When I turned on the light, I saw something that made me stop. The floor near the shelves was wet again. A few empty beer bottles stood in the corner. Someone had been drinking there. I looked around slowly. The air smelled of beer and dust. My hands were cold. I turned off the light and closed the door. I wanted to tell Mrs. Ortega everything, but I was afraid. She worked hard every day. She looked tired and sad each time she came home. I did not want to make her worry more. The next morning, Mrs. Ortega came home later than usual. Her face looked pale. "Anna," she said softly, "I got a strange message from Miguel last night. It came from an unknown number. He only wrote, 'Don't worry, I'm okay. Nothing else.'" She looked at me with tired eyes. "Do you think something happened to him?" I felt her eyes on me. I wanted to tell the truth. I opened my mouth, but then I saw how tired she looked. "Maybe he just changed his number," I said quietly. "He will come soon." Mrs. Ortega nodded slowly. "I hope so," she said. "He is my only family." When she left for work again, I sat down in the kitchen. I felt heavy and alone. I had told many small lies, but now they started to feel big. I didn't know what Miguel was doing or if he was even safe. A few days later, when I arrived at the house, I saw the front door open. I called out, "Mrs. Ortega!" But there was no answer. I walked inside. The lights were off. My shoes made small sounds on the floor. In the living room, something was different. The sofa was not in the same place, and one of the small tables was broken. I felt a chill. I went to the kitchen. Some of the drawers were open. The house looked as if someone had searched through it. I quickly went outside and called Mrs. Ortega. "Mrs. Ortega." "The door is open," I said. Her voice sounded worried. "What? Are you sure?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Some things are moved. She told me to wait outside until she came home. When she arrived, we went in together." She looked around in silence. Then she said, "The basement. We must check the basement." I followed her down the stairs. My hands were shaking. She opened the door, and we saw what I feared. Many beer cases were gone. There were empty spaces where the bottles had been. The floor was wet again. Mrs. Ortega looked at me. "Anna, did you see anyone?" she asked. I said, "No, Mrs. Ortega. Only one time. A man near the gate." She sighed deeply and covered her face with her hands. "Maybe Miguel," she said softly. "Maybe he came here." I did not say anything. She looked around the basement again, then turned off the light. "I'll call the police if it happens again," she said. "But for now, we'll just clean this." I helped her carry the broken bottles to the bin. She didn't talk much. I could see she was worried. That night, when I went home, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Miguel. Where was he? Why did he lie to his mother? Why did he ask me to keep this secret? I remembered his face that morning in the kitchen. He looked tired and afraid. Maybe he was in trouble. The next week, Mrs. Ortega worked longer hours. She looked older and sadder. "I don't understand," she said one evening. "Miguel used to call me every day. Now he doesn't. I only get short messages. Something is wrong." I tried to comfort her. "Maybe he is busy," I said, but my voice sounded weak. That same night, when I finished cleaning, I decided to check the basement again. I opened the door slowly and turned on the light. My heart jumped. In the corner, there was a small pile of clothes and a blanket. It looked like someone had been sleeping there. I walked closer and saw an empty can of food, an old phone, and a dirty glass. I stepped back and felt my legs shake. I turned off the light and ran upstairs. I locked the basement door. Someone had been living there. Maybe Miguel. Maybe someone else. I didn't know. The next day, when Mrs. Ortega called, I could not lie anymore. My voice trembled. "Mrs. Ortega," I said, "I think Miguel was here in the basement. Maybe he came at night." There was silence on the phone. Then she said, "What do you mean?" I told her everything. The missing bottles, the open doors, the clothes, the food. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said quietly, "Thank you, Anna. I will come home soon." That evening she came back early. We went to the basement together. The clothes were still there, but the blanket was gone. "He was here," she said softly. "He has no money. He must be hiding out." I stood beside her. I did not know what to say. She looked at me and said, "Thank you for telling me the truth, Anna. I wish I had known sooner." That night, Mrs. Ortega sat in the living room waiting for her son. She kept looking at the door, but he did not come. I finished my work quietly and left the house. Outside, the street was dark and quiet. I looked back at the big white house. I thought about Miguel, about the secret I had kept, and about how small lies could grow and hurt good people. I walked home slowly, wishing I had told the truth from the start. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Mrs. Ortega and her son. I thought about the basement and the empty beer bottles. I thought about the man I saw near the gate. Everything felt strange. I wanted this secret to end. I wanted peace again. The next morning, Mrs. Ortega called me early. Her voice was quiet. "Anna," she said, "you don't have to come today. I am not feeling well." I asked if she wanted me to bring something, but she said no. I stayed at home, but I could not rest. My heart felt heavy. I worried about her. In the afternoon, I decided to go to the house anyway. I took the bus and walked the rest of the way. When I reached the house, I saw the gate half open. The lights were off, but I could hear voices inside. I stopped and listened. A man was talking. His voice sounded angry. Then I heard Mrs. Ortega. Her voice was soft, but sad. I pushed the door open slowly and went inside. Mrs. Ortega was sitting at the table. Across from her sat Miguel. He looked very thin and his clothes were dirty. When he saw me, he stood up. "Anna," he said. His eyes looked tired. Mrs. Ortega looked at me too. Her hands were shaking. "He came this morning," she said. "He was in the basement again." Miguel looked down. "I have no money," he said. "I was living with some people. They took everything from me. I had nowhere to go. I came here at night to drink, to sleep. I didn't want you to see me like that." Mrs. Ortega started crying. "You should have told me," she said. "You are my son." Miguel said nothing. He looked ashamed. He turned to me. "Thank you, Anna, for not telling her too soon," he said. "I just needed time." I looked at both of them. I felt sorry for them. Mrs. Ortega looked at her son. She wanted to help him, but she felt pain. "I wish I had known," she said. "I was blind. I thought my son was fine. I didn't see the truth." I know you wanted to protect me. I forgive you. That night, Mrs. Ortega asked me to stay for dinner. The three of us sat at the table. The food was simple, soup and bread. The air was quiet. Miguel ate slowly. He said he would look for a job soon. Mrs. Ortega did not say much, but she seemed calmer. After dinner, I helped clean the table. Mrs. Ortega came to me and said softly, "Anna, thank you. Sometimes lies start small, but they grow big. I learned that today." Her eyes were kind, but tired. I wanted to cry. "I only did what I thought was right," I said. "I didn't want to hurt you." She took my hand. "You are a good woman," she said. The next few weeks were different. Miguel stayed in the house. He helped his mother with small things. He cleaned the garden and painted the fence. I saw him often when I came to work. He was quiet, but polite. Sometimes he carried the heavy boxes for me. Mrs. Ortega smiled more. She looked less tired. She still worked in the factory, but when she came home, she and Miguel sat on the terrace together. They talked and laughed. It was a small change, but it felt warm. One day, when I was cleaning the kitchen, Miguel came in with 2 cups of tea. He said, "Anna, I want to say thank you. I know you tried to help. I was lost, but now I am trying to be better." I smiled and said, "That's good, Miguel. Your mother loves you very much." He nodded. "I know, I didn't see it before. I only thought about myself. Now I see how much I hurt her. I want to make her proud." He looked out the window. I wanted to believe he would change. A few months passed. The house felt brighter. There were no more empty beer bottles on the terrace. The basement was clean again. Mrs. Ortega started baking on weekends. Sometimes she gave me a piece of cake to take home. "For your son," she said with a smile. One afternoon when I was about to leave, Mrs. Ortega called me from the terrace. "Anna," she said, "come here for a moment." I walked out and saw her sitting with Miguel. There were flowers on the table and 2 cups of coffee. She said, "I have good news. Miguel found a job in a small shop. It's not much, but it's a start." I smiled. "That's wonderful," I said. Miguel looked a little shy but happy. "Yes," he said. "It's a small store near the market. I work in the mornings. I feel better now." I looked at them both and felt peace. For the first time in many weeks, everything looked normal. That evening when I walked home, I thought about everything that had happened. I remembered the first day I met Miguel. I remembered how I carried his empty beer bottles to the basement. I remembered how I kept his secret. It started as a small thing, but it became something heavy. Still, in the end, it brought the truth. Now, Mrs. Ortega was smiling again. Miguel was working. And I had learned something important. Secrets can grow like shadows in a house. But when we tell the truth, light comes in again. The next time Mrs. Ortega called me, she did not ask, "Is Miguel home?" She only said, "Anna, how are you? How is your son?" Her voice sounded light, almost happy. I smiled and said, "We are both fine, Mrs. Ortega. Thank you." When I put down the phone, I looked out of the window. The evening sun made the sky soft and gold. I thought of my mom in Canada, my small apartment, and the quiet work that waited for me the next day. Life was still simple, but now it felt calm again. The secret was gone. The house was clean. And for the first time, I felt I had done something good. Not just as a maid, but as a person.
Wow, what a story. Every time I listen to a story like this, I feel something deep inside. Anna tried her best. Mrs. Ortega tried her best. Even Miguel, with all his mistakes, wanted a second chance. Maybe you felt the same while listening. Maybe you felt worried for Anna, sad for the mother, or even a little angry at Miguel, but also hopeful when he decided to change. Stories like this remind us that small secrets can grow, and sometimes they become too heavy to carry. But they also show that honesty and kindness can bring light back into a dark place. Now, let's look at some language from the story. Language takeaways. I'll explain everything in a simple way, just like a friend talking to you. While you listen, try to imagine the scenes again. It will help the words stay in your memory. In the beginning of the story, we hear, "The house belongs to Mrs. Ortega." The word belongs means something is owned by someone. If I say, "This phone belongs to me," it means the phone is mine. This word is common in everyday speaking, but many English learners forget to use it. In some languages, people say, "the house of Mrs. Ortega." In English, we usually say, "the house belongs to her." Another word is terrace. When the weather is good, Miguel sits on the terrace and drinks beer. A terrace is like a small outdoor area connected to a house. In some cultures, this is like a balcony or a flat open space where people relax. In many American homes, a terrace or porch is a place where families talk, drink coffee, or enjoy the sun. We also hear about the basement. The basement is dark and cold. A basement is the lower part of a house, under the ground. In the US and Canada, basements are very common. People store things there, or sometimes they turn it into an extra room. In the story, the basement becomes an important place because the clues about Miguel appear there. Later, Anna says, "I felt a chill." A chill is a small, cold feeling in your body. Sometimes it's because the air is cold. Sometimes it's because you feel afraid. When Anna felt a chill, it wasn't just the temperature. It was the fear she felt in that dark basement. There's also the expression, "searched through." The house looked as if someone had searched through it. This means a person opened drawers, moved things around, and looked inside everything. In many mystery stories, this is a sign that someone was looking for something important or that something bad had happened. At one moment, Anna says, "My voice trembled." To tremble means to shake a little because you are scared, nervous, or cold. When your voice trembles, the listener can hear the fear inside you. It's a strong emotional word, but still easy to understand. Later in the story, we also hear that Miguel looked ashamed. If someone feels ashamed, it means they feel bad about what they did. They feel guilty, embarrassed, or sorry. In many cultures, especially family-centered cultures, feeling ashamed is very powerful. When Miguel avoided his mother, it wasn't because he didn't love her. It was because he felt ashamed to show his situation. Another useful phrase from the story is, "I couldn't lie anymore." To lie means to say something that is not true. When Anna says she couldn't lie anymore, she means the secret became too heavy for her. In real life, many learners find this phrase helpful because it appears often in movies and books. I can't lie anymore is a natural American English expression. We also hear phrases like, the house felt empty, or the secret felt heavy. In English, we sometimes use feel not only for emotions, but also for the atmosphere. A house can feel empty. A room can feel warm. A secret can feel heavy. These expressions make your English sound more natural and more emotional. Another expression is, he was lost. In American English, when we say someone is lost, we don't mean they can't find a street. We mean they don't know what to do with their life. Their mind is confused and their heart is tired. Miguel wasn't lost on the map. He was lost inside. Every one of these words helps you understand the feelings in the story, not just the events. And when you understand feelings in English, that's when your learning becomes deeper and more natural. Now, let's practice something powerful. Storytelling practice. Now that we've explored some of the language from the story, let's take one more important step. Understanding vocabulary is good, but using it is what makes the learning truly stick. And one of the most effective, fastest ways to improve your English is to write tiny stories. Short scenes, simple moments, just a few sentences. These small stories help your brain connect new words to emotions, pictures, and meaning. That is how real language grows. So today, I invite you to create your own mini story using some of the vocabulary we learned. Words like belongs, terrace, basement, chill, searched through, trembled, and ashamed. You don't need all of them. Just choose 3 to 5. Keep it short and simple. Don't worry about making it perfect. Don't worry about grammar too much. What matters is that you create something. To help you get started, here are 3 examples. Example 1. Using belongs, trembled, and basement. Yesterday, I went to my friend's house to help her clean the basement. She found an old box that belonged to her grandfather. When she opened it, her hands trembled a little. Inside, there were pictures from many years ago, and she started to cry softly. Example 2. Using terrace, chill, ashamed, and searched through. Last night, I sat on the terrace and felt a small chill in the air. I went inside and saw that someone had searched through my desk. My little brother stood there looking ashamed. He said he was only trying to find his lost homework. Example 3. Using basement, belongs, ashamed, and trembled. I was cleaning the basement when I found a guitar that belongs to my father. I tried to play it, but my hands trembled because I didn't want to break it. When my father came down and saw me, I felt ashamed. But he smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm happy you want to learn." These stories are short, but they are powerful. If you write one small story every day, even just 4 or 5 sentences, you'll see your English grow faster and more naturally than you expect. Now it's your turn. Choose a few words from today's lesson and write a mini story in the comments. I'll check some of them, and you might inspire other learners too. Now, let's finish today's practice with something powerful. Shadowing practice. Shadowing means you listen and repeat at the same time or a moment after me. It trains your mouth, your ears, and your rhythm all at once. It's one of the best ways to sound more natural in English. We're going to shadow the 3 tiny stories you heard earlier. Take a deep breath, focus on the sound, and let's begin. Story 1. Yesterday, I went to my friend's house to help her clean the basement. She found an old box that belonged to her grandfather. When she opened it, her hands trembled a little. Inside, there were pictures from many years ago, and she started to cry softly. Story 2. Last night, I sat on the terrace and felt a small chill in the air. I went inside and saw that someone had searched through my desk. My little brother stood there, looking ashamed. He said he was only trying to find his lost homework. Story 3. I was cleaning the basement when I found a guitar that belonged to my father. I tried to play it, but my hands trembled because I didn't want to break it. When my father came down and saw me, I felt ashamed. But he smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm happy you want to learn." Well done! Shadowing short stories like these helps you feel the rhythm of English, not just the words. If you repeat them a few times, you'll notice your pronunciation becoming smoother and your confidence growing. And that brings us to the end of today's lesson. You did a lot today. You listened to a full story, learned new vocabulary, wrote tiny stories, and even shadowed with me. That's real practice. And every time you show up like this, your English grows stronger. Remember, learning a language is not about being perfect. It's about showing up, little by little, just like Anna did in the story. Small steps can change everything. If today's story touched you, or if you learned something new, let me know in the comments. Write your tiny story, share your thoughts, or just tell me how you feel after listening. I love reading your messages. And you never know, your comment might help another learner feel brave today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next story. We have many more stories coming to help you grow your English and grow yourself at the same time. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for practicing with me. And as always, keep learning, keep going, and keep believing in yourself. See you in the next video.